I was literally holding the pre-op paperwork in my shaking hands, staring at the phone, unable to process the words my own mother had just spat at me because they were so cruel that my brain simply refused to accept them as reality. "We have tickets, Clara. We've had them for months, and we can't just drop everything because you didn't plan your life better, so stop being such a burden and figure it out yourself." That was it. That was her response to me begging her, practically pleading with her on my knees, to watch her 18-month-old twin granddaughters for just 48 hours while I underwent urgent spinal surgery that I had already delayed for 6 months because I was trying so hard not to inconvenience anyone. Instead of helping their only daughter during a terrifying medical crisis, they chose a classic rock tribute band concert over the safety of my children and my physical well-being. I felt like the ground had just opened up and swallowed me whole, not just from the excruciating physical pain I was in, the kind of nerve pain that made every step feel like walking on shattered glass, but from the absolute emotional devastation of realizing where I actually stood on their priority list, which was apparently somewhere below a cover band and an overpriced margarita. It was a moment of clarity so profound it made me nauseous, realizing that the safety net I always assumed would be there because they are my parents, the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally, didn't just have holes in it. It didn't exist at all. So, I have to ask you guys right now, before I even get into the insanity that led up to this, was I crazy for expecting my parents to step up in a genuine medical emergency? Or are they truly, utterly selfish people for leaving me high and dry when I literally couldn't walk? Tell me if you would have ever spoken to them again after something like this, because honestly, I'm still reeling from the fallout. To really understand why this hit me so hard, you have to understand that my relationship with my parents has always been, well, complicated is putting it nicely. They've always been the types of people who love the idea, of being parents and grandparents more than the actual work involved. They love posting photos of my twin girls, Meyer and Chloe, on Facebook to rack up likes and comments about what beautiful grandbabies they have. But when it comes to changing a diaper, dealing with a tantrum, or just showing up when it's inconvenient, they are suddenly ghosts. I grew up hearing about how much they sacrificed for me, how difficult I was as a child, how much I owed them, which I later learned in therapy is pretty textbook narcissistic behavior. But as a kid, you just internalize it and think you're the problem. When my husband, Mark, and I found out we were having twins, we were thrilled but terrified, and my parents performed excitement perfectly, buying matching outfits and talking about all the babysitting they'd do. Spoiler alert, that babysitting never happened. In the 18 months since the girls were born, they have watched them exactly 0 times unsupervised. Every time I asked, there was an excuse: a headache, a dinner reservation, a vague feeling of coming down with something, or just straight up saying they were too tired. I learned quickly not to rely on them for the day-to-day stuff, and Mark and I managed, though it was incredibly hard because Mark works a high-pressure job in logistics that requires long hours and frequent travel, meaning I was often solo, parenting 2 infants while trying to maintain a semblance of sanity. The physical toll of carrying 2 babies to term and then hauling 2 growing toddlers around, plus the car seats, the double stroller, the endless bending and lifting, started to catch up with me when the girls were about a year old. It started as a dull ache in my lower back that I ignored because, well, mom life, right? You don't get sick days when you have twin babies. I pushed through it, popping ibuprofen like candy and using heating pads at night, telling myself it was just a strained muscle. But then the ache turned into sharp jolts of electricity shooting down my right leg, and my foot started going numb. There were mornings I couldn't physically get out of bed without weeping. Finally, Mark basically forced me to see a specialist. The MRI showed a severe herniated disc that was compressing a nerve root, and the surgeon told me I was dangerously close to permanent nerve damage if I didn't get it fixed. This wasn't elective surgery. This was, if you want to be able to walk your kids to kindergarten, do this now, situation. We scheduled the surgery for 6 weeks out to give us time to arrange everything. Mark was able to secure the day of the surgery and the 2 days following off work, but he was right in the middle of a massive contract negotiation, and his boss made it clear that if he took more time, his job might be in jeopardy. And since he carries our health insurance, that wasn't a risk we could take. The surgeon said I wouldn't be allowed to lift anything over 5 pounds for at least 4 weeks post-op. My girls weighed 25 pounds each. I needed real, hands-on help. My mother-in-law, who is an angel on earth, lives 3 states away but immediately offered to fly in and stay for 2 weeks to handle the bulk of the recovery period. I felt a massive weight lift off my shoulders. We had a plan. But then, 10 days before the surgery, my mother-in-law fell down the stairs at her house and shattered her ankle. She needed surgery herself and was completely immobile. We were devastated for her, and panic set in for us. Our primary support system vanished overnight. We looked into hiring a temporary nanny or a post-surgical care aide, but the costs were astronomical, and with twins, you need someone specialized. We asked our friends, but everyone works full-time or has their own kids, and asking someone to take on 2 toddlers for days at a time is a massive ask. That left my parents. They live 20 minutes away. They are both retired. They are physically capable. It was the logical, obvious solution, even given their history. I thought, surely, this is different. This isn't me asking for a date night. This is urgent spinal surgery. I called my mom a week before the operation, my voice trembling a little because I hated asking them for anything. I explained the situation with Mark's mom, emphasized the urgency of the surgery, and asked if they could please take the girls just for the 2 days Mark would be at the hospital with me, and then maybe come over during the days for the following week to help lift them, while Mark was working from home in the other room. I thought it was a reasonable request. My mom's immediate reaction was a heavy sigh, the kind that implies I had just asked her to donate a kidney. "Oh, Clara," she said, "that's really terribly timed. Your father and I have had a very busy month." I felt sick. "Mom, it's spinal surgery. I don't have a choice. I need help." She hemmed and hawed, said she needed to check their calendar. They are retired. Their calendar is mostly empty, and said she'd call me back. She didn't call back for 3 days. When I finally got a hold of her again, it was 4 days before surgery. I was in agony, barely able to stand straight to make the twins lunch. "Okay," she said, sounding incredibly put out. "We can take them for the 2 days, I guess. But you need to pack everything they need. We aren't running around buying diapers. And they need to be dropped off by 8 a.m. because we have things to do." I was so relieved I almost cried. I ignored the tone. I ignored the reluctance. I just thanked her profusely. "Thank you, Mom. You have no idea what this means to me. Mark will drop them off on his way to the hospital." For the next few days, I prepped everything. I packed bags with military precision diapers, wipes, favorite toys, detailed schedules of their naps and meals, emergency contacts. I tried to make it as easy for them as possible. The night before surgery, my anxiety was through the roof, not just about the operation, but about leaving my babies with people I knew didn't really want them there. At 7:00 p.m., Less than 12 hours before we were supposed to drop the girls off, my phone rang. It was my dad. "Yeah, Clara, listen," he started, his tone casual, like he was canceling a lunch date. "Something came up for tomorrow. We can't take the kids." My heart stopped. "What, Dad? What are you talking about? My surgery is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Everything is packed. What came up?" He cleared his throat. "Well, you know that tribute band your mother loves. They added a second show tomorrow night, and we managed to get last-minute VIP tickets. We've been dying to see them. It's going to be an all-a thing. We're meeting friends for dinner before. It just doesn't work with the kids." I couldn't speak. I genuinely couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. "Dad, you're joking, right? You're canceling watching your granddaughters during my spinal surgery to go to a concert." He got defensive immediately. "Look, don't guilt-trip me, Clara. We have lives too. We shouldn't have to put everything on hold just because you're in a jam. You should have had a backup plan for your backup plan. That's what responsible parents do." I hung up on him. I didn't have the energy to fight. I looked at Mark, who saw the look on my face and knew something catastrophic had happened. When I told him, he turned a color of red I've never seen before. He wanted to drive over there and kick their door down, but we didn't have time for rage. We were in crisis mode. It was 7:30 p.m. the night before surgery. We had no childcare. I was frantic, crying hysterically, the pain in my back amplified by the stress. That's when I called my mother back, desperate, begging, which led to the conversation I started this story with. The one where she called me a burden and hung up to go prepare for her concert. So that's the situation I was in, 12 hours before I was supposed to be cut open, with 2 babies and 0 help from the people who brought me into this world. I had to make a choice right then about how to handle this and what my future with them would look like. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes in that exact moment. Would you have canceled the surgery? Would you have screamed at them? I really want to know if my reaction was justified. The next few hours were a blur of panicked phone calls. Mark and I were desperate. We ended up calling our neighbors, an older couple in their 60s, Barb and Tony, who we were friendly with but not super close to. They had always been sweet to the girls, waving when we walked by. Through tears, I explained the situation, humiliating as it was to admit my own parents abandoned me. Without a second of hesitation, Barb said, "Bring them here, we'll take them. Don't you worry about a thing, honey, you go get fixed." I sobbed harder at her kindness than I did at my parents' cruelty. These near strangers stepped up when my own flesh and blood wouldn't. Mark dropped the girls off the next morning with Barb and Tony, who had already set up a makeshift playroom in their living room. The surgery went well, but the recovery was brutal. The pain was intense, but the emotional pain was worse. I spent 2 days in the hospital, and while I was laying there in a daze of pain medication, I made the mistake of checking Facebook. There they were, my parents, checking into the concert venue, posting selfies with giant margaritas, captioning photos with "living our best life," and #grandparents night out. There was not a single text asking how my surgery went. Not one call to ask if the girls were okay. Nothing. It was a slap in the face so public and so profound that it calcified something inside me. When I got home, I was bedridden for a week. Mark was incredible, juggling work calls while feeding twins and changing my ice packs. Barb and Tony were saints. They kept taking the girls for hours every day just to give Mark a break, bringing over casseroles, refusing any payment. They showed me what family is actually supposed to look like. About a week after the surgery, when I was finally able to shuffle down to the living room, my mom condescended to call me. "So, you're alive," she said cheerfully. "How was it?" "We had an amazing time at the concert, by the way. You really should have seen them." No apology. No acknowledgement of the chaos they caused. Just complete denial of reality. I felt a cold calmness settle over me. "I don't want to hear about the concert, Mom," I said, my voice flat. "What you did was unforgivable. You abandoned me and your grandchildren when we needed you most. You called me a burden because I needed medical help." There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then the gaslighting started. "Oh, Clara, stop being so dramatic. You always blow things out of proportion. We knew you'd figure it out. You're resourceful. And besides, we deserved a night off." I realized then that there was no getting through to them. They were incapable of seeing anyone else's needs as equal to their own desires. "I didn't figure it out, Mom. Neighbors I barely know stepped up because you wouldn't. And you know what? You're right. You deserve a night off. In fact, you deserve a lot of time off. I need a break from you. I need to heal, physically and emotionally. And I can't do that with you in my life right now. Do not contact me. Do not come over. I will contact you if and when I'm ready." I hung up before she could start screeching. Mark fully supported me. We blocked them on social media and our phones. It's been 3 weeks now. The physical pain is fading, but the realization that I am essentially an orphan with living parents still hurts. They have tried to send flying monkeys, my aunts and uncles, to tell me I'm being a terrible daughter and keeping the grandchildren away from them, but I've held firm. I tell everyone exactly what happened. I don't sugarcoat it. They chose a tribute band over watching the girls during my spinal surgery. It usually shuts people up pretty quickly. I don't know if this no contact is permanent. Part of me mourns the relationship I wish I had, for myself and for Maya and Chloe. But looking at my beautiful girls, I know my primary job is to protect them. And if my parents view them as a burden, or as props for social media that can be discarded when a better offer comes along, then I am protecting them by keeping them away. I learned that family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when things are ugly and hard. It's Barb and Tony making me soup. It's Mark sleeping in a chair next to my hospital bed. It's not the people who call you a burden for needing them. I think I made the right choice, but it's a lonely one. So yeah, that's my story of how a fake rock band broke my family apart. If you were on my side in this mess, please hit that like button. It really helps validate that I'm not crazy. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future updates, because I have a feeling this isn't truly over with them. And please, seriously, drop a comment below with your final thoughts on this whole disaster. I read them all, and they help more than you know. I'll see you all in the next story.